My name is Geoff Alex, and I'm the podcast host for Overcoming MS, and also I'm a co-ambassador for the Southwest UK Circle for Overcoming MS. I've been in this role for about 4 years now. It's about a year after I started following Overcoming MS, and I've been on an OMS retreat, and I decided to apply for the podcast host role. I work with principally Gina Beach. She's hugely helpful. She actually does most of the work for the podcast. So although I might appear and you might hear me on the podcast, she actually does a lot of the arranging for the podcast. She does any admin. She does the publishing, which is both to multiple different podcast platforms as well as now to YouTube. So there's a lot of work going on that isn't involving me, and she does huge amounts of that. Previously that role was done by Alex Tversky, again hugely beneficial for me having someone doing all this work in the background. I also work with lots of other people in the OMS organisation. Depending on what I'm doing, I do have fairly regular contact with a lot of the OMS team. And in my role as a co-ambassador, I work with Tessa Jane, and she does huge amounts of the work. She arranges events and does lots of stuff for the OMS in the southwest of the UK. A typical day for OMS doesn't involve OMS for me. I have a full-time job. I work in IT, and we create 3 to 4 podcast episodes a month. They take around about an hour each, and I fit those in my work lunch break, or often in the evenings, because a lot of the guests are from around the world, so it may well be that they could be in the west coast of the US and we'll have an evening meeting. Equally, they could be in Australia or New Zealand, and it will be quite late at night when we have a meeting. So a lot of those podcast episodes are recorded in my free time, but a typical day doesn't involve a huge amount of work. Increasingly, it doesn't actually need an awful lot of work other than the recording time that you see. So I chat to the people beforehand, and that's hugely beneficial for me as well. So I learn an awful lot of information from the guests that we have, so the world experts, and I get to have a chat with them and find out huge amounts of information, as well as finding all the information out that we actually record on the podcast. And so it's been a massively beneficial on a personal level to be the podcast host for Overcoming MS. What Overcoming MS means to me, well, on a personal level, I find out all this information, but I would say that generally Overcoming MS is a couple of things. Firstly, it gives hope. So it doesn't set out this route of progression of your illness. It's not saying you've got MS, therefore you are inevitably going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. There are plenty of people following Overcoming MS who don't get worse. There are some people who get better. And I think for everyone it certainly gives them the best opportunity for reducing progression that is available. And it's science-based, and it's the best options available to you because it's following the evidence, and I think that's the key thing for me. I like to look at the science of things. I came from a science-based background. I'm very interested in the evidence. So that fact that it follows the evidence, and it will change its approach. If the evidence shows something different, it will follow that science. So it's a very science-based, evidence-based approach. And I think Overcoming MS gives people with MS the best opportunity for having a full, active and healthy life.